No, I agree with that. I think it should. I think it should have gone down as a racing incident. But I'm also not surprised that they gave a penalty because Verstappen was out and Hamilton survived. So
Yeah,
it's kind of standard to give the guy who's left
I've seen
a
penalties.
penalty.
I've seen much more harsher penalties handed out for a lot less things. Well, look at Austria, for example, with Lando Norris.
Yeah, I think that were a bit. I don't like what's been going on this season. I mean, they've said in the past. I don't know whether it was Charlie Whiting if he was still alive at the time, but sorry, there's a bit of a loop here. Hey, when that happens, there we go. Because the live stream's just opened up and I'm hearing myself a second behind. It's very distracting. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I don't know if it was Charlie Whiting or it was Michael Massey, but someone said, right, we're going to let the drivers race. We're only going to hand out penalties when it's clear that somebody's at fault. There's no way you can say that we're clear.
But also, I mean, where do you draw the line with that? You know, because that's a matter of opinion.
Absolutely, and it varies depending on the stewards that they have because it changes every week. I think they should have the same stewards for every race. I'll be honest. There's no reason why they can't.
Well, they do that. I think they still do that in IndyCar racing, where they've got like a chief steward.
Yeah, I think they should do that. But I don't think they will because it's the FIA and they kind of share stewards around and stuff a little bit. Right, let's do this. Later dates. It's weird. You have to get all the details into the live stream. You have to pretend like you're starting a live stream, but don't actually start it. YouTube, man, it's complicated. No, not made for kids. Can't risk it. Hiya, Phil. You know, all right? I think I saw you join.
Yeah, we're here. It's early in the morning for me, so it's all good. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. Pal.
It's a lot cooler this week as well, so you won't be hearing us complaining about how hot it is.
Well, that's a good thing. It's good for you guys. It's these heat waves and all this stuff. It's nuts. All people want to deny it. That's fine. I want to deny it exists. Hungarian GP. Kind of want to find some history.
Hamilton's won 8 times at this track.
Yeah, it's one of his. Yeah, it's one of his tracks that he's won 8 times at.
Quite a few drivers have took their first Grand Prix victory at Hungary.
Yeah, that's.
Could it happen again next weekend?
That'd be cool.
Probably not. I'd love to see someone like Lando Norris do it, though.
Yeah, or Sainz or somebody.
Yeah, Carlos has it coming, don't it? But both him and Norris, they both deserve a win. They've come so close.
That was Ricardo's. Yeah, I think that was Ricardo's first win, actually, right?
Yeah, that was Canada.
Oh no, it wasn't. Yeah, it is. For once, they're not predicting rain for Hungary. 30 degrees on race day, 35 on Friday. It's going to be a hot one.
It usually is hot in Hungary.
Yeah, it's usually hot.
Yeah, I was as red as a Ferrari after going to that race. No amount of sun cream could have saved me with that one.
Yeah. Also, in his second race. Oh, no, it wasn't. Yeah, his first was Canada, you're right.
Alonso's first win.
Yeah, Alonso's first win. Jensen Button's first win.
Damon Hill.
Was it Damon Hill? Well? Yeah.
Damon Hill's, 1990. Because Prost had to start in the back, so he got, Okay, yeah.
Well, he should have won a lot more races in 93, Damon Hill.
God, yeah, Damon Hill got screwed out of a few wins that year. And if you put Senna in that car, I think they don't lose a race.
You're right. Just waiting for Jack. He seems to be struggling with his computer or his tablet or whatever he's going to be using.
Yeah, Rubens was Germany. Was that Jacques Villeneuve's first one?
No, that was Nürburgring.
Oh, never. I'm just because I'm going through the history of the race. I'm just trying to figure out who won their first race.
He could go over the line and took his only victory there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, so was everybody else, except his own family.
Oh.
Okay. Trying to see Sir Lewis Hamilton.
There he is. Come on, Jack. Hi, Jack. Can you hear us all right?
Hello, coming in.
Hey, there you are.
All right, sorry about that.
Oh, it's all right. Mate, you're literally 1 minute late. Don't worry about it. Tell you what, I didn't realize how bloody tight it was in the FE. I knew it was usually a course championship, but it's something else this season.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, the more you look into it, like, it is. I get what they're trying to do. It's sport for sports, like sports sake, but it's very artificial with the way the qualifying groups are done.
Yeah.
Oh, have they changed it or something?
No. So the way it works is obviously because the tracks are so small, they don't want 24 cars all trying to set a fast lap simultaneously. So they split it into 4 groups of 6. But because it's all street circuits, it's all dusty, they're not used for anything. The evolution is massive across one day. So anyone in the first group has a dirty track because it's only had like 2 hours of, not even 2 hours of practice time. So as over the course of each session, the track rubbers in massively more. So it's split down into four groups of 6 based on championship order. So those top 6 in the championship are almost always at the back in qualifying because they've got no rubber on the track.
Right, that is interesting.
So I think they're looking into changing it though.
Hopefully.
Oh shit! What have I done? Oh no, we're fine.
You're still here, don't worry.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's a nightmare for Garrett Gerloff. Awesome. How the heck do they didn't post the laps properly? Gerloff gets in a Toprak Rasgulu and then crashes on himself. Super. That's convenient.
Ready to start, lads?
Yep.
Okay. Put that there. Put that there. There we go. Right. As most of the world turns its attention towards the Olympic Games, Formula One fans look forward to Hungary for the 11th round of the 2021 Formula One season. Welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast, everybody. This is episode number 123, where I'll be previewing the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix. I'm your host, George Howson, and I am joined today by F1 expert Alex Booth.
Hello.
Phil Mathew from the Grip Strip podcast.
Hello.
And the master of engineering himself, it's Jack Watson.
Hello.
So, lads, thank you for joining us today. Thank you as well to the 5 people. Yes, we've had 5 people give us 5-star reviews on iTunes. And as such, I'm going to shout out all of their names. Van Boy for Life, Casey Footy, Lovely Lindsay's, the Big Panda Foot, and Taylor S, a mixture of British and Americans there. So thank you very much for all those reviews. And if you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, we will give you a shout out in the next show. So thank you for all those people who left us a 5-star review there. It really does help us out. And yeah, and also we do go out live on YouTube as well. So if you want to catch the show early, so just go to the Formula One Grid Talk YouTube channel and you'll be able to see the show early before it comes out on Spotify or any other platform. So, Alex, let's start with the guy who is still leading the Formula One World Championship despite his retirement at Silverstone. It was looking as though it was going to be a relatively easy ride for Max Verstappen. He was on form. He won 4 of the last 5 races, but that retirement has really put pressure on him. And we're going into a race where Lewis Hamilton has won here 8 times in the past. So who do you see as going into this race as the favourites?
I still see Max as the favourite, to be honest. It's still in the lead of the championship. It was a bit of a setback in Silverstone, well, more than a bit. But and in Hungary, obviously Hamilton's won there a lot, but Verstappen went well. He nearly won 2 years ago. He went well there last year, and I think with the Red Bull being a lot quicker than it was last year, I still think he's the favourite for it. And but unless the championship contenders have another collision, I would still go Max as the favourite for me.
Yeah, I echo that. I think Verstappen is still the favourite, to be fair. In the last 4 races that he's finished, he's won. It's only the retirement in Azerbaijan and the UK which has really stopped that run of his and Red Bull's. I mean, Phil, how do you see this one going? I mean, like I said, Hamilton has won here 8 times. He could break the all-time record for a win at any track or any Grand Prix with 9 this weekend. But obviously, Verstappen, he probably does have the fastest car, and it's a track that's very difficult to overtake around.
Yeah, and the way that Max has been qualifying here in recent races, it speaks to Red Bull being able to have the upper hand. Granted, during the Friday qualifying session at Silverstone, Lewis was able to qualify on pole. Can he match that at a track he's won at 8 times? He's done it in good, bad, and terrible cars. He kind of has to, in a sense, but I also feel like with Red Bull and all their rage and all the anger and like Helmut Marko wanting to go and call Vladdy and get Lewis Hamilton knocked off and all this BS, that Max will probably come off and be motivated. Obviously last race before the summer break to go out, get a good, have a good Saturday, get your pole and run off and win the race and reestablish your points lead a little bit. I mean, it's possible Mercedes bring additional, what's it called? Upgrades that could possibly give them a little more pace in the race, or maybe even in Saturday qualifying. But I just don't see that. I figure Max Verstappen is the clear favorite, even though Lewis is great at the Hungaroring. It's really going to start with the 33 car and then go from there.
Yeah, Mercedes were looking like second best before Silverstone, but those upgrades that they did bring there, I mean, they might not have brought the half a second like Toto Wolff was boasting about in the press, but they do seem a lot closer. And obviously, Jack, they're a lot closer in the championship now, just 8 points. It's just over the difference between first and second. And regardless of whether you think it was Hamilton's fault, whether it was Verstappen's fault, or it was a racing incident, that crash has really brought this championship so close again, and it's really good to see.
It has, obviously, like you say, it's not the way we wanted to see. Like, I think you'd probably take it for Hamilton to sort of have the reverse of fortune after the summer break and get the string of wins. But it's got everybody fired up. Like, it's been a long time since we've seen even like team principals at each other's necks, like as they have been, admittedly, through the media. It's not like they're going around to each other's garages for a dust up, but
give it time. Give it time.
But yeah, I think ever since like even the second round, Imola, where we had that little clash, you sort of saw, okay, like you had a bit of a feeling of something different. And it's just like you said, it's come to a head. We're at a point where you've got 2 of the best drivers in the world going into that corner, not wanting to back out, and neither was ever going to, because you may as well, you'd be dead and buried if you did. So, yeah, both doing what they was going to do. I would expect quite a few lunges from Max if he finds a black car ahead of him. Turn ones, we've already seen it before in previous years, a couple of moves by Ricardo. Good old couple of lunges into turn 1, so expect a little target on the back of the Mercedes.
Yeah, I didn't think about that actually. Turn 1 it's the only real overtaking point in the track, and it really does invite drivers to launch it down the inside. So I think we could well see that during this weekend. I think you're spot on there, Jack. Now, we were speaking before the show about Hungary being potentially making unpredictable races, first-time race winners, and I think the favourite, if there is going to be someone to get a first-time win, it would be Lando Norris going into this one, Alex. I mean, we can wax lyrical all we want about him. He's the only guy to score points in every race. He's usually at least fifth. How do you see McLaren going into this one? Because this is a track that even when McLaren was struggling as a team, it has made some good results for them.
Yeah, I expect it to be another strong weekend for McLaren. I think it will take probably again something of an incident to allow Lando Norris to potentially take a victory. I don't think they could do it on pure pace, or a major strategic error or something. But a podium could be possible for him. He's had a couple already, and I think the first win for Norris as a driver and McLaren as a team for nearly 10 years, it's still not quite there on pace. I do honestly think it would take not necessarily Hamilton and Verstappen taking each other out again, or certainly one of them retiring, but it's not quite there for him. I think it's going to take something special. But it'd be lovely to see.
Of course, it would be. It would be really good to see someone like Lando Norris win. But yeah, solid result, maybe a podium is probably what he's going to be aiming for. And I think that's also probably what Valtteri Bottas will be aiming for as well, Phil, going into this one. A solid third place last time out in Silverstone. I think he'll be looking to get some more good points for Mercedes, and as well, just to maybe potentially hold Verstappen up if there's some alternate strategies going on.
Yeah, it's after the last race, it was first time in a little while that Bottas was able to do what he needed to do, or do what he's expected to do in a sense, George. So the fact that you're going to Hungary, going into summer break, likely the announcement will come here. It may not be this coming week, but it'll probably be coming here in the next few weeks. He'll be on the free agent market, and Toto Wolff is out there saying, "Oh, if he isn't a Mercedes driver, I'll help him get a ride," which basically is akin to him saying, "Oh yeah, I'll put you back at Williams." But it could be something else. Who knows? But really, Bottas with the Constructors' Championship back in a more reasonable amount of points, they can go. He can make a play and he can defend against Sergio Perez. He could possibly do something in qualifying, give them Mercedes an opportunity, as you said, with alternative strategies. It's a brutal place to overtake. So, I mean, Bottas, the one thing that Bottas has been able to do generally this year well is the qualifying. His race pace and craft has not been great. That's kind of always been a deal for a while. So if he can go out there, qualify well, and possibly get a start against, which that's also been a problem for him, get a start against a Max Verstappen, that could change the tide of the entire race. But we will see. I think the British Grand Prix weekend was very positive for Valtteri and his prospects, going forward, hopefully going into this race here at Hungary.
Yep, definitely a better weekend at Silverstone for Valtteri Bottas. And it's a track where he goes well. I remember he beat Lewis Hamilton fair and square there in 2017. So it's not a bad circuit for him by any means. And it's a track that really rewards qualifying, which is usually what Bottas is better at. It's usually the races where he relatively struggles. Speaking of struggles, though, Sergio Perez, Jack, I mean, I love this guy, don't get me wrong, but it was a nightmare weekend for him in Silverstone. Apart from getting the fastest lap, which he didn't even get a bonus point for because he was at the back of the grid, it was really nothing to write home about. But Hungary is going to be very hot. For once, they're not predicting rain going into this one. They're predicting it to be at least 30 degrees. It's going to be a track where tyre conservation is going to come into it. And like Bottas, with Verstappen, Red Bull might be expecting Perez to hold up Hamilton and Bottas during the race as well. So how do you see his weekend going?
It's an interesting one because Perez, to me, is kind of falls in the opposite of Valtteri, as Phil said. Strong qualifier, but poor racecraft. Poor. but Perez does seem to benefit more on the Sunday. But as we've already said, as you all well know, Hungary, as you said, can't really pass there, apart from maybe 2 or 3 places. But if he can then get vaulted up the order by with that tyre conservation, I think that's more what they'll be focusing on, playing a long game, only a single stop, trying to sort of get him to just gain track position by staying out on track, pushing, or perhaps waiting for an opportune safety car. Runoff's not massive there, so it's if a car does stop on track, we're more likely to see that sort of thing. So it'll be a much more strategic sort of race rather than what he would have had at Silverstone, which was just sort of flat out like trying to get cars left, right, centre. Unfortunately, he couldn't do. So yeah, expect a more strategic sort of run for Perez, a more reserved but sort of thought out drive.
Yeah, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas have always said it. They are key to the constructors' battle, and it's just 4 points Red Bull's advantage over Mercedes. That has been almost wiped out overnight at Silverstone. So it's all to play for there. It's all to play for in the Drivers' Championship. And if you forgive the pun, Alex, Ferrari come into this as a bit of a dark horse, really, because they obviously Leclerc had an incredible run. He nearly won the race at Silverstone. He finished second in the end. He was absolutely on fire. And they have 2 pole positions this season as well. So if they hook it up in qualifying, if they get up there at the front of the grid, they could really cause a surprise here.
They really could. I mean, he was my driver of the day at Silverstone, and he probably was for a lot of people. It was an outstanding race for him. And as you mentioned, it's a couple of pole positions, although I know one of them he didn't actually get to start on. But if they did really well in qualifying and even potentially got a pole position, they could be in with a shout, because in Silverstone nobody was really predicting that he'd be able to hold the lead for so long because of the tyres and the pace of the Mercedes. Obviously Hamilton's penalty helped, but I think if they can carry on that momentum into Hungary and a strong qualifying, I mean they could be a contender for the race. Although and overtaking, as both Phil and Jack have mentioned, is quite difficult in Hungary, but there is a DRS zone, obviously, down the main straight, and that first corner, you can make a move, but it's also quite easy to defend. So defensive driving will come into the equation if need be. But I wouldn't rule it out. I think it's a possibility. It's not likely. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't put money on it, but it could happen.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. Ferrari, when we've said it about how important qualifying is here, Ferrari should suit this track a bit more because it's less reliant on engine power, which is the weakest aspect of their car. Although, like I said, after Silverstone, they didn't look bad down the straights at all, really. So, yeah, Ferrari coming into this one on good form. We'll go to Daniel Ricciardo next, though, Phil. Again, another guy who had a better weekend at Silverstone. He was just 1 place behind Lando Norris, and this is a track again which really suits him. He won here in 2014. He's got a good record here, to say the least. So, how do you see him getting on? Do you think he'll be able to potentially even beat Norris for a change this weekend?
It's a possibility, George. I think when it comes to Danny Rick, he's always he's a hot or cold guy. He's a momentum guy, and I think the British Grand Prix weekend was a positive for him, in that he had a clean, generally straightforward weekend the whole way. If you're able to go and have a similar weekend at a track where he knows he's done very well at before, both for Red Bull and for Renault, I think this McLaren car is well suited to the circuit. You could put all those things together, and who knows, maybe he can get a podium out of it, be a sneaky podium pick. Who knows? Maybe he actually puts qualifying together, and he could really put a thing, whatever, spanner in the works, whatever, kind of deal. Like, it would be cool to see. Lando has definitely been a clutch driver all year, only driver so far to score in every race, and so it's up to Danny Rick. Especially when you're talking about Ferrari and their prospects in regards to third in the Constructors' Championship. Daniel Ricciardo has to go and do his part to make sure McLaren can continue there and keep that position. And I feel like he'll be able to do that. I don't know if he will beat Lando. I think just Lando is just that step better. not only in qualifying pace but in race, and that's all it really is. And the fact of the matter is, I think it's a long-term partnership, and it may not be about this year, and in a lot of ways you could say it hasn't been about this year for Daniel, but I think he's building towards greater confidence in the possibility of a championship chase going into 2022. But I think he'll have a good weekend here at Hungary.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ricardo should do well. He needs momentum. And if he gets a good result at Hungary, then he'll be going into the summer break on a very big high. If he doesn't, it's going to be difficult for him. He's going to have to really work at it. We know how good he is. He's a race winner. He's, in some people's eyes, a future world champion still, even at over 30 years of age. It's possible for him if he gets the car one day. And it's a good point as well about Lando Norris. I forgot that he almost got pole position in Imola. You never know. He could do something very impressive in qualifying here at Hungary, as long as he keeps it on the track. That's the key. That's what cost him at Imola. But that's Formula One for you. Very fine margins. Fine margins too in the Constructors' Championship between McLaren and Ferrari, just 15 points between them. But it's even tighter behind that. It's just 9 points between AlphaTauri in 5th and Alpine in 7th. Just a single point between AlphaTauri and Aston Martin. So, Jack, AlphaTauri are going to need their men to do well this weekend, and it should be a good track for them. AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso, they have done very well at Hungary in the past on occasions. And in particular, Pierre Gasly, he always seems to score points. He was very unlucky in Silverstone with his puncture. He's always there or thereabouts. So how do you see that team getting on this weekend?
Well, looking at some of the past high downfall circuits from the season, Gasly's shone. Spain and Imola in particular. A little bit let down by a bit of a nothing sort of attempt last time out at Silverstone. It was a bit sort of anonymous, wasn't it, for him? But I reckon they'll know where their strengths lie. So this will be a good chance for him to get sort of middle of the top 10-ish, but low to middle anyway. Again, like his teammate Tsunoda, it's kind of a common thing of just needing to settle down, like cool that head. Well, I mean, we saw in practice when the pressure was off, he was a bullet around Bahrain. That sort of pace wouldn't have gone overnight. It shouldn't have gone overnight anyway. So yeah, I would hedge their bets for them. Like it should be a good opportunity for a reasonable haul of points and try and extend that gap over their more experienced rivals in green.
Yeah, it would seem as though Pierre Gasly should get points, should get some lower end points, like you say. Tsunoda's a bit of an unknown quantity. He did get a point out in Silverstone last time. That was because of Gasly's puncturing and dropping down towards the end. I think for Tsunoda, it's just a lack of experience. He had so much running at Bahrain because of the testing there. He knew the track like the back of his hand, and he was bloody quick. He really was. But he just, like you said, he just needs to settle down, needs to get into his groove. And I think he has been better recently. So he should be at least challenging for points this weekend. But yeah, so you mentioned Aston Martin there. Like I said, just a point separate them and AlphaTauri for 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. Hungary is a great track for Sebastian Vettel. I think it was one of the few where he did better than Charles Leclerc out last year. And Lance Stroll, he could spring a surprise as well. So how do you see Aston Martin getting on this weekend, Alex? They need some points, but it's hard to see them getting too many.
Yeah, they do need some points going into the summer break, and they had a disappointing weekend in Silverstone with Vettel retiring. But I'm not confident that they're going to really do particularly well in Hungary. I think they might struggle. Although saying that a high downforce circuit, I mean, Vettel did really well at Monaco, and Stroll is a steady driver. He's capable of scoring points, but I expect them to be on the back foot in Hungary. I think I don't really see them scoring double-digit points, shall we say.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch to see him doing too well, but you never know. It's hard to overtake. Vettel and Stroll, they've made a habit of doing the long first stint on the hard tyres if they don't end up in the top 10. If they do that and they do get a safety car that's well timed, they could be in for a top 5 potentially. They've done it before, so it's definitely possible. Another guy that really suits this track is Fernando Alonso, Phil. And I think he had his best performance since his comeback last time out in Silverstone. He did absolutely everything he could to keep the guys behind him. And yeah, like I said, it's a good track for him. He's got his first win here in 2003, nearly 20 years ago now, which makes me feel a bit old myself. And it's a track where it's very difficult to overtake. So if he employs them tactics again, if he makes a good start, he could get some very solid points for Alpine, and they need them.
Yeah, they definitely do, George. But I think that Fred has been on this upward trajectory for the last few months, really. And he has taken over control of the team, which isn't shocking. And Alpine is in a direction that they're obviously looking at 22. He said it, but there's things that you see. Not only you see the Fernando Alonso, you see signs of it, and especially his work at Baku in the green white checkered restart. His qualifying pace, he got screwed at Austria. He should have been in the top 10. He goes and races his way into the top 10 during the sprint at Silverstone and then holds in the race itself. He's getting back into the groove. He's starting to get the momentum that he needs as he goes towards the second half of the season. He's one of the people that's probably not happy that, the summer break is coming up, because he's starting to get into a groove here. They have a chance at points here, somewhere around 7th, like they did 7th, 8th. There's a possibility for the Alpine team to get a double points finish. And when you consider how close that their battle is in the constructors, every point will count and it doesn't matter. So for Fernando Alonso, it's more about qualifying. If he can put the lap together, get himself in a Q3, kind of figure out some things from there. Even if he doesn't get in a Q3 from 11th, he's one of the best starters there is, period. He can make a couple places and kind of mess around there. Ocon woke up from his hibernation at the British Grand Prix and actually showed that he was a Formula One driver. So if he continues on that path, then it's good overall for the overall good of the team. But I think everything starts and ends with Alonso there if they're going to have points in regards to the battle with AlphaTauri and Aston Martin.
Yeah, Alonso is carrying that team really. 26 points for Alonso, 14 for Esteban Ocon, almost double for Alonso. And Alonso scored in the last 5 races in a row as well. He has been in incredible form. And again, that track Hungary should suit that car a lot more than what most do, because of the engine deficit. It's not going to be as pronounced there. And in Alonso's favour as well, turn 1, it's open to overtake. It's quite a long run to the first turn as well. So Alonso will not take any prisoners going into those first few corners. So I think he should make up a decent amount of spots. So now we get on to the free back market teams, starting with Alfa Romeo, Jack. I remember Hungary being incredibly bad for them last year. I'm sure they were on the back row. I think they were 19th and 20th. Even the Williams cars beat them. It's difficult to see them really doing much here unless the employer Seb Vettel tactic of just running super long on the first stint and trying to hold their positions, but it's not looking great for them at the moment.
No, not really. I think it will sort of be the two of them against one of the Williams. I think the other one will shoot off, but we'll get to them. Yeah, I don't know if they'll be getting points if they're on 2 at the minute in the championship. I don't think they'll be adding to their tally this time around, because I think, as we've sort of suggested, this sort of lower midfield is mental. They are so close, and I think they'll just wind up locking out Alfa Romeo. Not even if they're on a good weekend, they just won't have the pace of those ahead. I certainly can't see that happening anyway. Of the drivers, not too sure if it's going to. I mean, Raikkonen, he's still got that sort of that start reaction in him. That's a bit like how we saw with Alonso in the Silverstone sprint. He knows his racecraft, and given how compact the track is, it does sort of invite a little bit of argy-bargy and a little bit of sort of feeling it out for the gaps. So before the DRS comes in, there's a chance to at least make up the odd position here or there at the start. But over the race, I don't know that if they'll be able to hang on to it.
Yeah, I think it's a big ask for him to get points. I mean, the 2 points this season have come at Monaco, where overtaking is near enough impossible. I don't think anybody did any on-track overtakes. And Baku as well, where we had that crazy finish to the race and Kimi Räikkönen stuck him for a single point. So it's difficult to see him really doing much. I do think there's more potential for Williams, though, Alex, in particular because of their qualifying record, because of how hard it is to overtake. George Russell always getting into Q2, and he's got into Q3 last time out in Silverstone. I think he was 8th, wasn't he? Qualified, which is just incredible. So if he can do that again, my usual bold prediction, could it come true this weekend? Is it going to happen, Alex?
You know, the one thing I found incredible was the fact that, and it wasn't surprising, to be honest, is that George Russell actually managed to finish in the top 10 in the sprint race. It's like the first time he managed to do that in the Williams, and it happened to be in the sprint race, which I kind of knew that was going to happen, really. I think Q3 is possible again, though, at Hungary, with it being a tight circuit, and it's quite a short circuit as well, so lap times tend to be quite close together, which makes it quite, the gap between the bottom reaches of like the top 10 towards the midfield, 16th, 17th, could be as little as a couple of tenths. So there is the possibility to sneak into Q3. The dreaded question of whether he can score his first points finish in a Williams, it keeps going on, and it's almost like a curse for him, really, because there's been a couple of times where he's looked like he's going to do it and it's not happened. It nearly happened at Austria as well before Fernando Alonso got in, didn't it? But it's one of the circuits where it could happen. Whether it will happen is a different matter. We will see.
Yeah, it's possible. It's always possible. You can't predict Formula One. But
I was a bit ignorant on Nicholas Latifi there. I didn't really talk about him.
It's all right.
He's not got the same pace as George Russell, which is I won't hold that against him, because George Russell is seen as this mega talent. But I don't think Nicholas Latifi will be right at the back, and so that's possibly the best compliment I can pay him.
He could go in skew too. I won't rule it out. I think Latifi is bashed on a bit harshly by some people, to be honest. I don't think he's that bad. I think he's just made to look that bad by the car and Russell.
I don't think he's a bad driver at all. It's just like you say, he's got George Russell as a teammate, so it's going to be tough.
It will be. But if Williams are smart about it, if they utilise Latifi, if they run him long and get him to hold people up behind, it could really play into the hands. But I'm probably going a bit into fantasy realms at that point. I don't know whether that'll happen, but we'll see. But yeah, I think even in our wildest predictions, Phil, I don't think we could predict a top 10 finish for Haas. So have at it. I can't really even see anything happening for them. Even if Mick Schumacher drives the race of his life, like I always say, it's at most he's going to get like 15th if a few guys retire.
I mean, he got to drive his dad's first Formula One car. The transmission worked, so that was positive. Unlike for what happened to his father at Spa in 1991. But that car is probably faster than his actual car that he drives right now, and looks better too. For Mick, he's just going to be driving around. His goal is to only be one lap down in this race, not two. Not be in the way or hold up anybody in qualifying. When it comes to his super amazing teammate, Egghead, his goal is to not be 3 laps down at the end of the race on Sunday and or piss anybody off because he ignores blue flags, which is possible that he will. And, and if he doesn't wreck, it'll be a bonus. I think his goals these days are to not finish 2 laps down and less than a minute or more than a minute behind his teammate. Which, I mean, it's Egghead. I mean, he's probably going to anyway, so who cares? As long as he doesn't bin the car. I've heard that people like him on his team, and I'm like, well, sure, they should like him because his dad owns half the team. They're all employed because in part because he pays the checks. Of course, they should like Egghead if he isn't wrecking the car every single race or doing stupid stuff, and he's not assaulting them the way he assaults other drivers. But going to be a pretty sad weekend for them, probably. They're going to need an apocalypse to happen for them to even get anywhere near the points, and they still probably wouldn't get the points. I think there's a better chance of Roberto Moreno coming back from retirement in whatever one of the 84 different cars he drove in Formula One and scoring a point before one of the two Haas cars do.
I think you're right there. I mean, it took a miracle for him to get points there last year. Magnussen, what was it, pitting onto the dries or something like that, or the Inters, I can't remember which way it was around, but starting on the different tyres, ended up getting a penalty, but ended up getting a top 10 finish anyway. So it took enough of a miracle, a masterstroke of strategy for them to do that anyway last year. And this year, the car is infinitely worse. So it'd take a miracle. It'd take or 10 cars not finishing. That's the only way you can see it happening. But yeah, so those are the teams and the drivers. We've gone through them all. And now we're going to try and predict who's going to finish on the podium, our top 3 predictions. I'm going to say, so tough. It's the usual top 2 I'm going for, but which order is it going to be in? I'm going to say Hamilton to win. I think he'll win his 9th Hungarian Grand Prix, but it's going to be close. It's going to be a tight battle between him and Verstappen. So Hamilton first, Verstappen second, and third, I'm going to go Fernando Norris. I think Norris will finish third. I think he'll make it 3 constructors on the podium. Alex, what's your top 3 predictions?
I'm going Verstappen first, Hamilton second, and for third, I think I'm going to go Leclerc.
Definitely possible. Phil?
I'll go Max. I mean, I would like Lewis Hamilton, of course, but I'm going to go Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and Daniel Ricciardo as my pick for third this coming weekend.
The Hamrick. So, Jack, what's your top 3? You're muted, Jack.
Apologies. It's been too much thought into this. I think Verstappen will win it, followed by Hamilton, close as you say, and I think Perez will probably get third.
Well, so we've gone for the same. Everybody's gone for the same top 2, but in different orders. But it's that third podium spot. It really is wide open. It's between like 6 different drivers, really, when you think about it. It's really possible. Right. So, bold prediction time. Do I go for it? Apparently, I am the sole person that's responsible for George Russell never scoring a point for a Williams. I've heard that multiple times now. So I'm not going to go for that. Although I do think it could happen.
If he scores points now, you know that it's your fault the entire past 2 seasons.
It's not Williams. It's not Fernando Alonso. It's not it's not himself. It's me. I have caused that. It's solely my fault. I am going to say Fernando Alonso to get a top 5 finish and get the fastest lap of the race. I'd say that's pretty bold. So, Alex, what's yours?
I was initially thinking of a Fernando Alonso bold prediction as well, but I'm going to try and think of something else. Probably go with Alfa Romeo to get on the end of the points, a bit like Giovinazzi did in Monaco.
It's definitely possible. The strategies that you can run in Hungary, you can hold people up. It could happen. Phil?
Wow. How do I do the Alonso? Can I just go and be the token George Russell scores a point? So then I get all kinds of praise if it actually happens.
You have to predict it every weekend then.
Well, that's fine. I'll do that for the rest of the season. I'll take over George's spot, and I'll say that Georgie boy finally gets his first point for Williams as he gets closer to actually driving for a proper team soon enough.
Baton has been passed. It's your burden now, Phil. Hopefully it's not a poison chalice. Jack.
It isn't.
Sorry, Phil, you muted yourself right at the end.
Yeah, it isn't a burden to me, so it's all good. I want to see it happen, so it's all good.
I want to see it happen too. I want to see him get top 10. So that's why I'm very, very, I'm concerned about myself always predicting it never happening. Jack, what's your bold prediction?
I mean, this will probably blow my podium prediction out of the water.
He's edging his bets.
But I'm going to go for both AlphaTauris within the top 5. I
mean, they could get 4th and 5th.
They could, but come on, let's inject a touch of realism into it. There's a lot. I can't see that actually happening. But yeah, I reckon if you want a bold prediction from me, expect AlphaTauri to just all of a sudden vault their way through the top 10 into at least both of them scoring within the top 5.
I think one of them could.
Oh yeah, no, I think if you're being realistic, Gasly's going to be on fire. But I reckon if you say you got fucking,
if you say what, Jack?
If you say
hey now,
out of nowhere.
It's if you say like Gasly got 3rd and Tsunoda in 5th or something. Like stranger things have happened, I suppose.
True. They have. I mean, 2015. That was an effing manic race as well. So yeah, it could happen. I think did Toro Rosso get double? No,
I think Verstappen finished 4th.
He did. Yeah. I think he had a wing change, but he still finished way up there. So that was a nuts race. If anybody's not seen that race, go back and watch 2015 Hungarian Grand Prix. That's one of the best races I've ever seen. That was insane. But yeah, those are our bold predictions. I will allow you guys to plug as well. So, Phil, I've mentioned that you're part of the Grip Strip podcast. So what is that and where can people find it?
Yeah, the Grip Strip podcast is a motorsport podcast. George has been on it. Tom from the Monkey Seat has been on it as well. We go over all different types of motorsports, not only in North America, but in the world, Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, etc., 2 and 4 wheels. Basically, as long as it goes fast, we generally are able to talk about it on the GSP. We also talk about the NIFL, so American football. We also got other sports in there here and there, depending whether I'm falling asleep or not, which is part of the problem, being the EP and all the other issues that I seem to bring upon myself with having to run a podcast. But you can find us on Podbean. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora. What's it called? TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify. So please tune in, give us download, give us likes. We do our best, or I do my best to rep the Grid Talk whenever we're on, and even in general, because we do a good job here. And thanks to you, George, for having me on again.
Oh, you're always welcome, Phil. And yeah, do check that show out. Like Phil said, I've been on a few times. It's always a lot of fun, and they cover a lot of things outside of Formula One as well. Alex, I've mentioned that you are the F1 expert or a F1 expert. So, and I hear that you do a few classic race reports for a website.
Yes, I do. I'm trying to show you another website very well because it's yours.
Don't say that. Don't tell him.
Well, it was your idea anyway. Yeah, there'll be a classic Hungarian Grand Prix article coming up if anyone's remotely interested in reading my stuff.
They are, Alex. A lot of people read it. Don't you worry about that. And a lot of people read your technical. I've generally forgot what they call. The Spotlight on a Legend, I think they're called, aren't they, Jack? The articles that you do.
Yeah. So another writer for George's Spotlight website. I tend to lean into more the historical and sort of technical sort of thing. So currently working on I apologize, like an aero, the big aero changes through F1 in its past 50 years, 70 years actually. Yeah, probably my big one so far was Spotlight on a Legend, the DFV engine. You can't talk about F1 without bringing up the DFE after powering 30 years worth of motorsport. Let's be honest. So you want to find my stuff? It's all on there. Spotlight. Spotlight.
Yep, Spotlight on Legends on spotlightpro.com, and as well, Jack has covered regulation changes for the IMSA, the WEC, and Formula One as well that have either happened or are coming up. So if you want to get a lowdown on what's coming its way in Formula One as well, do check them out, because I generally learned something going through those as well, because you can't get it all from a Wikipedia page. You need a proper in-depth article for some of these things. But yeah, like I said earlier on in the show, if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Music or iTunes, you can get a shout out at the start of the show, and we'll be sure to do so. Yeah, and we go out live on YouTube as well. So comment below, and we will answer your questions after the show and react to your comments as well. We've got over 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel now. We're heading towards 150. We're nearly there. Just search for F1 Grid Talk on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. We're the first thing that comes up now, which shows how much of an impact we're making. We're also available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Verbal, Omni Studio, Pocket Cast, and the F1 Chronicle websites. Just search for the Formula One Grid Talk podcast on all of those. And check out our back catalogue as well. It's all online. You can access it all. It's not just previews and race reviews and qualifying reports, but it's also more documentary style ones as well, including Ayrton Senna, Tiregate. We did an interview with Mario Sola from Pirelli, and a hell of a lot more. And yeah, thank you for joining us, lads. I really do appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back on Saturday to analyse qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We'll see you for that one. Goodbye. There we go. Yeah, don't worry about that, Jack. Honestly, we'll edit it out. I'll just put a little note to Lex. Mate, honestly, they just come out sometimes. It just happens, doesn't it? So
it's all good.
I reckon it could be a decent one this weekend. It's normally a battle. You don't expect much passing on track, but it's not a battle of strategy. Seems to, if you want to get a warm up, you've got the Formula E this weekend. So that's pretty much nothing but a strategy battle.
Yeah, I watched the race yesterday. There's another one on today, isn't there? Soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think
it's probably on now. Yeah.
Right, no spoilers. I'll watch it on the iPlayer in a bit. I thought it was I was really confused at first, because I just literally tuned in to the start of the race, and I thought, how the hell is it so dark at 3 in London? And then I realized, oh, it's partly indoors. That's a different touch.
It may be a bit gimmicky, but it sounds like Bugs Bunny there. A bit gimmicky, but yeah, I suppose it's them taking advantage of their USP, isn't it? Apart from didn't F1 do like a partially indoor thing like once in 1984 or 6 or something, where only like a couple of the usual non-qualifiers turned up? Like it's the only race win for Minardi or something.
There was there was an indoor trophy, Formula One indoor trophy.
Yeah.
Oh, never knew. I had no idea. Never knew that. Good on Minardi. Good on Minardi. We had one comment in the chat, so thank you, Adam Ahmed, for your comment. He said, I would have loved to hear Niki Lauda's no-nonsense reaction to the Silverstone collision. I would have done too. I think he would have probably, obviously, because he was working for Mercedes, come out on the side of Hamilton. But I think he generally would have thought, like, Verstappen, what the hell are you doing? You've got a championship lead and you've just blown most of it. Because whoever's fault it is, whatever you think, the fact remains is that Hamilton took 25 points out of that lead because of that crash. And if Verstappen backed out, even if he finished second to Hamilton first, that's 7 points.
It'll be interesting, I think, come the end of the season if there's 1 point in it, because the fastest lap point got taken off him because of Perez pitting.
Well, then there's the sprint points as well, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Verstappen gained a point from that over Hamilton.
Yeah, because having another one in Monza.
That's going to be manic, I think.
Yeah, to be honest, it should work out better than here. I at the risk of drawing Tom's anger from our preview last time out, I reckon Monza's probably a better fit, especially if they're going for that sort of, what is it, 50Ks or is it 100Ks? It's 100Ks, isn't it?
Yeah, 100 kilometers.
It's
the third distance, pretty much.
But you, especially with the current race, like they don't have the opportunity to space out because like cops make it Beckett, it ruins your attempt for half the circuit for passing. So Monza, on the other hand, the only corners you got are quite stop-start with the rear chicanes, so it should work out quite a bit better.
Qualifying in Monza has been absolute farce last couple of years as well. We're trying to get a toe.
No, couldn't believe I didn't see qualifying live, and I saw the screenshot of everybody in the top 10 all huddling together, and I thought, no, what's gone on there? Like what? And then when I watched it, I thought, this is just unbelievable because like half of them missed the chance to do another lap, didn't they?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I think Vettel was like the only guy who was switched on.
It seems like because I've always had like this, most recently, like we had it in Austria, didn't we? You can't back up within the last 2 corners, and then they backed up in the last 2 corners, and there was no reprimand for it either. I don't think there was anyway. So it doesn't seem like whatever is being put forward by the FIA isn't actually doing anything as a deterrent. So I don't know how to change that really, unless they set like a. Would it be reasonable to set like a minimum sector time or something through
that's the only way to
the final sector?
It?
Because it's when they say you can't back up. I understand you've got to you need the air, and it's all about getting the part of the spectacle, especially on Monza with them hitting 380 k's. But yeah, like
excuse me.
So a little something, just to sort of at least get them moving.
I think for some tracks, Austria being one of them, Monaco being another, tracks where you get a lot of traffic problems, I think they should maybe consider doing one shot. I know it's not ideal. I like to see all the cars out on the track, but at Monaco in particular, it's a bit manic in Q1, isn't it? Like there's not a lot of space for them all.
I loved the single lap qualifying they did back in the noughties. I thought that was really that was interesting. It probably wasn't very good if you're a spectator because you're only going to see one car come past each time. But on television, it was brilliant.
Yeah, that's part of it, isn't it? And doing a lot of these, I think like the sprint qualifying and stuff, it gets 3 meaningful sessions on 3 days, and we didn't have that before. It drove attendances up, so that's also part of it.
However, if they started doing it at just the tracks, like we saw with F2, I think, of Monaco this year, it's the only track where they split down their grid.
They do, yeah.
So we're already getting, it's the first step, but if they're using their junior formulae as their sort of experiment, maybe we're edging towards, which is an idea that I think's been floated around within us quite a lot, is sort of customizing events to the track. So there is no real defined, well, there's a set of defined like options for qualifying and a set of defined options for a race weekend, and then sort of picking what would work best, considering how the cars race each other on certain tracks. So Monaco, even in a grandstand, I'd imagine you'd appreciate getting to see every car on its full chat. Whereas obviously at like Silverstone, that's there's enough space that you don't need to do that, so that the current eliminator style works.
I think that's a really good idea as well. It'd be nice to make Monaco quite unique as well, because I know it gets criticised a lot, but it still is the jewel in the crown. It's the big event on the calendar, and it's a bit like the Indianapolis 500 in IndyCar. That's a different weekend to all the other, but it's more than a weekend. It goes on for a few weeks. So and the qualifying it has its own qualifying. So if Monaco had a different qualifying to everybody else, it would make it stand out more.
I think it definitely helped, wouldn't it? But then you'll always get some people. I mean, you get some purists saying that's not right. It should be the same for every. There should be the same style of weekend for every track, and then you'll get some teams maybe complaining about it as well. I don't know. It's hard to get teams and fans to really. Well, it's impossible to get teams and fans to agree on things most of the time.
Change is scary.
Change is scary, but we need change now.
Well, the thing is, like, it's awkward that they're floating around all these, how could we fix it because of how the cars interfere with each other, blah, blah, blah. I think they maybe picked the worst time to do it, because the way it's being presented, a lot of the problems are going to be eliminated with this new ground effect car next year. So you kind of want to wait at least 2 years, if you're including this one, to sort of see how the new cars interfere with each other, how they drive with each other, because then all of a sudden you might start, like, sprint qualifying is a good example of this. It might become null and void if the cars can now race on almost any track, size notwithstanding, which is a big issue for Monaco.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit smaller. These
A
cars,
touch, but they're not massively smaller.
No, it'll still be tight, Monaco, won't it? They won't be able to overtake in Monaco still. That's not going to change. But around tracks where it's difficult, like Silverstone to an extent, Monza.
It should just be easy to follow, though. I think with ground effect cars, so that would help.
Yeah, and they've got Ross Brawn and some very clever people working on it. So it's the best shot that we've had at it. You know, in theory, it should work, and it's got some very solid thinking behind it. So I'm hopeful, but I bet you there'll be still some people, particularly the drive. I mean, I do like how Drive to Survive has brought some new fans into the sport, but there are some people who genuinely think F1 is like that all the time, and it's not. You're going to get some races that are good and some that aren't as good, and you're going to get some people like, oh, the changes have come in. There's more overtaking, but there's not like 20 every lap. It's just, well, it doesn't work like that. That's not Formula One.
No, I've said it many times. It's like with football, you're always going to get the boring 0-0 draws, but nobody really complains about that.
Yeah, you don't want to change the ball or change the size of the pitch to.
It just seems to be the most fickle sport as Formula One. It's like as soon as something negative comes, it's the reaction's unbelievable. It's like, oh, we need to change this, we need to change that, and it's always the same.
Yeah. It makes me laugh. I'm in what I call the old farts club in Formula One on Facebook. It's and you get these older people who are just like, oh, the drivers aren't proper drivers nowadays. Oh, they change the helmets every race. Oh, it's not like it used to be. I'm just like, mate, that was nearly 50 years ago. Of course, everything's different. You're saying this on Facebook on an online platform, like. Are you not seeing how life and the world has changed as a whole? Oh, God, people are always complaining about stuff. I do think there's big potential with these changes, though. I am hopeful.
But they've gone into it with a different outlook, haven't they? I can't say I've heard of a governing body deliberately picking holes in its own regulation, because the way they've gone about it is like, okay, where's our loopholes? So they've then essentially, and especially with Braun leading it, I mean. He
was the master of going through those loopholes, weren't he?
Yeah, exactly. So he will have a team on board that will know exactly what to look for and how you can interpret what the rules don't say, which is the first thing. If you've ever been in a competitive sort of environment like that, you'll know it's not what they say, it's what they don't say that gives you the advantage. So yeah, it's the first sort of time that they've gone as in depth as this, because otherwise. A lot of the time, we've had a rule change, pre-season testing comes up, and then half the teams have got some, all of a sudden, it seems glaring advantage, double diffuser and blown floors and all this sort of stuff.
Changing the topic slightly, what do we want to see replace Australia on the calendar? I'd love to see either do Sakir again, like the outer layout of Bahrain. I think that's more likely. But an outside shot, I'd like to see Malaysia come back.
I don't think that would happen. They're on about there's a possibility that they could put Qatar in, which is the track they use for the MotoGP.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that. It does
I'm surprised they didn't do that last year, to be honest, instead of running 2 races at Bahrain.
I did really like the outer layout of that, to be fair, though. I thought it did make a great race. But the Qatar track, it is grade 1, so they can do it. But it seems, when I've ridden and usually crashed in MotoGP on the game, it seems quite narrow to me.
Yeah. It was quite narrow though, isn't it, as well? So
that's the point. I'm Monaco. So,
and the boundaries for tracks now, because I thought you could never have a Formula One race run on a circuit where the lap time was below a minute, and then lo and behold, we had the Sakir Grand Prix last year.
Yeah.
I suppose I didn't know it was under a minute until the F1 cars went round it, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I think it's one of those where it's kind of twofold, because Bahrain seems to be desperate to get more and more races. Like we just had Fuji cancelled in World Endurance, and immediately Bahrain's like, oh, we'll do a second race. So they've got a 6-hour and an 8-hour race almost back to back. So they seem really eager to get as much motorsport on their track as possible. So I do agree it's probably more likely they'll run that outer loop again because it proves so popular. I think it was probably helped with, or it's definitely helped with the George Russell situation. But yeah, it's certainly worth a go. I agree, Malaysia. I'd love to see that back, but I think they'll want to settle on their on like a designated place on the calendar. Like if they're going to come back, it's not just as a place filler. Like they want their spot back. Also, I don't know how they're doing, considering global events.
What Malaysia?
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing too badly, but yeah, maybe. I mean, I thought Malaysia, then I looked at it and I thought, actually, they'd have to go all the way out then, go all the way back. It makes sense to kind of stay in Europe or the Middle East.
I also think there might be more to come because the race prior to the one that's vacant is Brazil, but I wouldn't be surprised if that falls by the wayside.
No, not at all.
I think Japan's the most likely one to
Japan is also going to fall off. I think it's possibly debatable the way things are going with CODA too. That could also become a problem. So
Mexico,
I mean,
as well.
I was going to say, is Mexico still going? Because Formula E had that last minute track change because they were meant to race the F1 track because they raced on a shortened version, but they wound up at Puebla because the F1 track is currently a field hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Jeez, that tells you how bad it is.
If Circuit of America stays on, we could end up with 2 races in America. There was a possibility of maybe returning to Indianapolis or something.
Yeah, I think that's Roger Penske's trying to angle to get them to come there to run the current, whatever the circuit that they're using for IndyCar. I think that's the move, but there's also the possibility of 2 races at COTA too. I mean, if that comes off, but there's like 3 states that it's like taking off big, so I have no idea what's really going to happen.
I was going to say as well, if they do get back into Indy, like the track's changed a lot. Like even the Indy road course, it doesn't use the bank anymore, does it? They've got that sort of weird, because it still runs opposite to the oval layout, but they've got that weird tight little infill bit before the pit exit.
Yeah, so they'd have to alter the pit entry probably because it's really narrow. They might have to find a different spot for it. They might have to readjust that final chicane section, which was part of the MotoGP layout going the other way. Instead of them going through turns 1 and 2, they went inside left. They're coming in the back way. I don't know. Maybe they could use the banking again. I think that would be better because there was outside of 1 year, there really wasn't. It wasn't such a big deal. It would be cool to see because then it might open up options because IndyCar runs there twice a year now, and then even NASCAR's taken the Brickyard 400 now. They're going to run the road course race, so they're going to be using that layout too. They also have that. There used to be that little loopy section before they went out onto Holman Boulevard. They made that into a little S, like quick chicane. I'm not sure how.
It would be a very short lap in an F1 car now.
Yeah. Very, especially if they do go back to the bank and get rid of that final infield bit. Yeah, that's a fast lap.
It is. I don't think it'd help with overtaking if they had the banking, obviously. But after we've had the tyre failures from Pirelli, I think they'd rather not have it. To be honest.
I mean, they are leaning back into. Look, it's not like we're on a lot. Like they've said, a lot of things changed. We're not on a tyre war anymore. Pirelli will be able to get access. I'm pretty sure if they request access from Firestone. Loadings, just loadings, it might be sort of seen to that at least something can be given to them. The track's state of surface will be kept up to date, and also Formula One isn't afraid of banks anymore.
Yeah,
we saw all this downvolt and all that. It's steep as big as Indy. Obviously, it's a completely different load scenario, much slower, whatever. But they'll look into it. I mean,
those are fair points. Yeah.
I also think that if they are going to go to Indy, they'd be using the C3, C4, or whatever, C1, C2, C3. I forget which way it is in regards to soft to hard. But probably they'd use their 3 hardest compounds.
Yeah.
And the track will take rubber anyway because of the kind of grooves that are in the track. It's not as pronounced as it was the last time they were there. They've done a lot more maintenance to the track and put a sealer of sorts down that makes it a little more smooth. So I think those things all would kind of favor being able to use the old. I mean, the fact is the old layout is still there. Everything to do the old Formula One layout is still there. They haven't really done anything with that. So in turn, they could go back to the old lap, but they've altered it for other series. So there are options. But I think that's what Roger Penske wants to do. But of course, there's going to be Miami. We don't know what Coda's situation is, but Indy is the only other Grade 1 circuit here in the U.S. And then Montreal has been off the calendar for a couple of years now, so who knows if they'll be able to come back, or so we're losing tracks here in North and South America, and it's kind of a problem, especially when the people who own the series are based in North America. But that's beside the point.
The only thing I'd say to all that, and I've just realised this, is I'd love to see Indy come back. But if they did do it, if they did it as like the second race after Kota and they went to Indy, they'd be the end of October. And you might know better than me, Phil, but is it not quite cold in Indianapolis in late October, November? Is it possible?
Yeah,
it's snow?
chill. Yeah, it won't snow. It'll be chilly.
Okay.
Getting temperature in the tires probably will be hard. They ran the Harvest Grand Prix. What was it? The next last race of the year in IndyCar last year in October.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't, but the issue was, of course, getting tire temp and stuff. But, it looked nice. It was cool. It's weird, seeing racing in October at Indy. I think they ran sports cars there in the fall to one time. I don't know. I'm trying to remember if it was in the Grand Am or something with Europe. I forget now. Maybe it was
ALMS or something.
Yeah, something. I forget, but yeah, I mean, it was fine. I think tire temp, because they ran the race in September back. I think
early 2000s.
Yeah, 2000 to 2003. But in 2003, it rained a lot. It was very cold.
Yeah, and then they moved it back into the summer, and then they kept on jumping the date around. They never really. It made no sense. They should have just had it right after Montreal or before Montreal, and that would have been a good way to do it, But
I think in terms of the actual vacant date that we've got right now, from a logistics point of view, it would make more sense to either have two races in Bahrain or Qatar, because the race after is Saudi Arabia. So if you're staying in the Arabian Gulf, then it'd probably be better for travel.
Yeah. I can't see Mexico and Brazil coming off, just because you can see Kota in a way, because it's by itself. It's out. It says it's Austin, but it's miles out of the center. Hermanos Rodriguez and Interlagos are right in the centers of Mexico City and Sao Paulo.
Yeah,
I mean, we've had enough problems with Sao Paulo in the past, with mechanics being held at gunpoint and stuff. It's not the most secure place. And you could say the same for Mexico City as well. There's potential there, and to get everybody in and out safely for 4 or 5 days at least.
I think Mexico City could happen. I think Mexico City could happen, but I'm not confident about Brazil, just simply because COVID's really bad there.
Yeah, they did host the Copa America, but they had no fans, and there was a lot of murmurings about it being cancelled and players refusing to play. But they did host it, to be fair, and I don't think there was anything major that went wrong.
Man, you're saying that cases of going up in the UK, and they still held a race with full capacity. Yeah. So where do you go with that argument, really?
It's a tough one. It's something else over there, though. Like, not many people are dying here now, thank God, but I think it's still very bad over there for that, isn't it? So I don't know. It's a tough one. I'd love to see us have a full 23 race calendar and all of them go off without a hitch, but I can't see this calendar staying like it is now. Japan, Mexico, and Brazil. I think those three.
A lot of it's back to back as well. Like because America's being a bit sort of cagey as to like big public events and all that. So you've got Japan all the way down to Sao Paulo. So that's 4 races on the trot that could all of a sudden just vanish. That's a big gap to fill. So would F1 just sort of accept that they're not going to hold a 23 race calendar?
I don't see it. The team very, very committed to 23 races. I won't rule them out doing a double header. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I won't rule them out doing a double header at Saudi Arabia.
Well, they'll pay enough for it.
Yeah. They would. I think that's why Bahrain is
Abu Dhabi as well.
Yeah. Oh, to be honest,
that should be better though.
It should actually. Yeah.
They might want to push that new layout, wouldn't they?
I always said right from the start when that Abu Dhabi circuit came on, why did they have that stupid chicane in the first sector before? And it would have been
so pointless, isn't it?
Yeah. And they've finally done it. I finally got my wish.
Well, it's because they didn't have enough runoff, did they? Because the theme park decided to encroach on the track.
Oh, of course, yeah. So that's why they
did
brought it back
down
a
to
bit,
that hairpin. Yeah, so that it is now a straight shot, but the hairpin is now sort of roughly where the right-hand part of the chicane would be. So yeah, that's now where they'll be turning in for the hairpin onto the back straight. But yeah, quite interesting. Also, I mean, like you say, coming up to the summer break, this is a good opportunity. I know the teams are on enforced leave, but this is a great opportunity for F1 to actually get in touch with the host nations and sort of say, look, we're going to need to commit to this. If it'll at least give them, even if they want to play it safe, like Japan, with the Olympics having just gone on as well, there's going to be fallout from that. There already is. So yeah, I suspect they might just urge nations to sort of err on the side of caution, because then they've got more time to get affairs in order and get alternative strategies laid out to fill the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, Japan's in a state of emergency officially at the moment, so I honestly can't see them going through with it. I can't. I mean, the MotoGP's been cancelled. The WEC's been cancelled.
MotoGP's been cancelled in Thailand as well. So maybe just travelling to the far east is probably going to be difficult.
Yeah, that's another point as well. I think we're going to have another year of it being Europe and Middle East. I think
there'll be a Grand Prix in America. I think.
Okay, fair.
Qatar's the most likely one out of them ones that are under risk. I think just because of how it is. It's modern. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's a developed country, so they should be able to get everybody out there and back safely. I think Qatar will probably be all right.
Have any global championships gone to America yet? Because like most of the racing I've seen has been national level, sort of IMSA and IndyCar. It's all sort of very much stayed national. I'm not too sure. I don't know about any like football or soccer or anything like that has made its way to America internationally, but has any motorsport stuff made it to America yet?
I'm trying to think off the top. I don't really believe so. I mean, unless European teams came across the pond to run the Rolex and stick around to run the 12 hours. There were some LMP2 teams that did that.
Couple of but it's on a much smaller scale than having like
a full crowd.
An entire championship heading over for that one round. I was just wondering if anyone else had was aware of one that had gone there yet. I know it's still a bit early for him.
I can't think of it.
I can't think of anything, and it hasn't really been I think Formula One, like MotoGP isn't doing it. That would have been the other one. World Superbike, I don't even think has an American round anymore. So those would have been the two kind of like case study kind of with their situations, but neither of them have. WC isn't coming here. I don't think they're coming here for their current calendar. They'll probably run the Sebring 10-hour next year, but then that doesn't matter. It's months away.
Just going to go. We have some more comments come through. This guy, I think this guy's Hungarian, just guessing by his name. He's put his name down as Egregio, and he's just put, I realise I don't speak English. Well, you clearly speak a few words of it, at least. So I don't know what I don't know what kind of point you're trying to make there. But thank you for commenting. And we've had one of our regulars comment as well, Connor Walker. He's put, getting kind of sick of hearing from Christian Horner about the crash. Everybody is. Seems like it's coming up every day on my Twitter feed. I am absolutely with you on that one. I'm experiencing the same thing. We said about Karen Safnauer on the show, but it's really become Karen Horner. He just won't shut up about it.
His job is to run the Red Bull team and shut up.
Yeah, and he's doing half of that at the moment. So I don't get it. I don't get why he's still going on about it. The stewards have made the decision. They're not going to change it. Now you're just turning people against you, to be honest with you. Neutrals will look at how Red Bull have reacted to this and just be like, you know what, I'm going to side with Hamilton now. I'd rather he win it.
He's always had a problem with his mouth, and even when Red Bull were winning, he would be slating Renault.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
It is a good point, to be honest.
it's obvious to imagine what it's going to be like when Red Bull aren't winning. Well, all he's done for the last 7 years is moan.
Yeah.
Since Red Bull stopped winning.
I mean, he's the guy. There's a reason why his racing career went nowhere, even though he was daddy's money. It's because of his mouth and because he's a jackass. So the fact that he's crying wolf about this is no different. I mean, between him, what that other idiot Marco, that hillbilly, whatever he is. I mean, those two idiots, and then Jonathan Wheatley whining. Like the three of them should all just go into a room, get into a circle jerk. Like, shut up. Like, get over yourself. You're not that important. If you didn't have Max Verstappen, your whole entire organization would be a joke. Because you fire all your drivers before they're either you bring them up too quickly, they don't meet your standard. And now you have Formula E. I think a third of the grid is all Red Bull junior drivers or something. Yeah. Or Alex Albon is flailing around in DTM.
They've had drivers that are very contractually bound. So in the past, they couldn't really move anywhere else, and then they've just ruined their careers. I mean, you look at Sebastian Buemi, Jaime Alguersuari, Jean-Eric Vergne, and Alexander Albon. All victims of Red Bull, and all very good drivers.
Yeah,
DaCosta. There's other.
It's criminal that he didn't even get a chance.
Kvyat's to an extent as well. I don't think he was that bad. I really don't.
Well, and Gasly. And even further down, like Cassidy and stuff like that.
Yeah, even Bourdais. Like Bourdais done very well in IndyCar, hasn't he?
Well, Bourdais was always good in IndyCar, and he really wasn't a Red Bull guy. They just signed him, and the fact is, they never gave him a fair shake.
I think Bourdais had been in America too long by the time he came back to F1. If he'd won, because he went to Champ Car in 2003, if he'd maybe won the title he did win the title in 2004 and then gone to F1 then after only spending 2 years, like Montoya did and Villeneuve did as well, then he might have been a bit better. But it's like with Zanardi, he kind of got a bit too into the swing of Americans, and he couldn't adapt to F1 again.
Yeah, and Zanardi, even unlike Bourdais, I don't even know of his junior formula he had done well enough to where he was getting looks from the likes of Benetton and Jordan and all that, but it wasn't the same as Bourdais, who had won the F3000 title, and he had some juice behind him, but he didn't have the money, so he went to Champ Car.
Zanardi finished second in the F3000 championship in 1991.
Yeah, so I mean, he was, because he came in after he got sucked into that whole Schumacher deal with Moreno and them, so it became. He never really was in a top flight car either. I mean, and then you had, what's his name? Ralph was actually on the upswing at that point, and he went to Williams, and it looked like they built around him. And so it kind of went the way it went that year. I mean, when it comes to Bourdais, I agree that he wasn't really suited at that point to really run F1. He'd gotten used to the American way, and then the Red Bull bullshit really wasn't going to ever work for Bourdais', mouth or whatever, his ego, because he is outspoken too. So it worked out the way it did. He came back to America. I'm curious to see what he's going to do next year, but in the end, I think America's better for having Bourdais run here because he's a really good guy and he's well respected. The people that want to hate him can hate him, but the fact is he's actually ran for a lot of lower level teams after his Newman Haas time, and he's brought them up. So, that's the thing. People slag the guys that come to America, but in reality, there's guys that are in the current IndyCar grid that would be suitable for Formula One that are young.
I mean,
yeah.
Totally agree.
Pato O'Ward is one.
Yeah.
He's the obvious one, isn't he?
Certainly.
Yeah, Pato and Colton Herta are the two best examples, and I think Alex Palou, who's currently leading the points, he's a little older now, but the fact is those three guys, I think they could be blend into a Formula One grid and nobody would know any different. And so, I mean, that's where it's an unfortunate byproduct. Like you think about early in the 90s when Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr., the two best IndyCar drivers of the time, had their rivalry. Neither of them really got a clear, fair shake to possibly go run IndyCar, Formula One. Because I don't count anything Flavio Briatore does as being fair or straight up. And then in the case of Michael, who knows what the hell? We don't know the true story. Ron Dennis is Ron Dennis. And then the way it worked out in 93, they wanted Mika Hakkinen in the car and all this stuff. Like, I don't know. I think they made him out to be a pariah, but in the end, I don't think they ever wanted to help him succeed either. So it's like, and he's already an asshole to begin with, and he's one of the great racing drivers in American open wheel history, but he was an asshole to begin with, so it wasn't going to help. The guy, and he gave up a car that Nigel Mansell ended up going and winning the championship with, which he basically did all the R&D work for. So,
Just one more question before I need to head off. Connor Walker's put another comment in. Like I said, Connor, thank you. You're always commenting. You're always on these live streams. It's appreciated as always. He's put, apparently there are rumours of Valtteri Bottas being linked to Alfa Romeo if he gets canned from Mercedes. I think it's more of a when he gets canned from Mercedes, but I've seen that rumour too, and I'm not sure how much water it holds. I can see it. I can see why Alfa Romeo would want him. I think if they probably got him, they'd want to replace Gio, but I don't think Alfa Romeo and the sponsors would want to get rid of Antonio Giovinazzi. And what do you guys think to that one?
I think it'll be Kimi that will have to make way. I know we can't see the fans, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. But I also think it is the right time for Kimi to go. He's made quite a lot of glaring mistakes this year, and it seems like, I mean, David Coulthard said that he went through the same thing towards the end of his career. You start making mistakes or like doing things on the circuit that you wouldn't have normally done, but it just happens.
Yeah. I was assuming that Raikkonen would retire. So you think it could be maybe Gio and Bottas, or because there's Ilott in there, there's Porsche that's knocking on the door, there's even Schwartzman as well. There's a lot of younger drivers that are wanting to come into that team.
Thing is, though, I think they've said, because Alfa have now committed to Sauber for this, committed to Formula One via Sauber, but they've said that they're not filling Sauber with Ferrari juniors. Apparently that's not how that's working anymore, it seems. So Ferrari juniors have still got to find their own way through, it would seem, rather than you'll be fed straight into the Alfa Sauber team. So I'm not too sure I'm pretty sure that's what I read anyway. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
And there was another thing that I was talking about with my coworker, actually, and he was talking about Egghead, and it's a side piece where, he has to do some sort of military service, I believe. And between that, the penalty points and other stuff, there's a possibility that he may or may not be around. That might also open up a seat, albeit at a crap team. But, like that, it sounds like they're going to go and re-sign Mick, which everybody knew. But then also, I love the fact that he's been driving around in a seat that wasn't suited or not put in properly for the first time in any racing.
Aren't they under contract for 2 years, Schumacher and Mazepin?
I think it says that he's a 1+ because it was on Motorsport just now. It says, he's going to have or one of them sites is like, he's going to sign on for 22. So I guess
I've got it down on Wikipedia is not the most reliable source for this stuff, but I've got it down as both being contracted for next year at Haas.
Yeah,
so.
But I just saw it as, he's going to sign back for 22. It might have been on Twitter here or whatever, but either way, I think it should be. I mean, if you're going to open up the options and you're going to give yourself, Giovinazzi's going to stay now. You could have said that maybe after last year, you probably could have moved on from him too. They could have moved on from both of them, and they kept both of them. Raikkonen's done. He's been done anyway, but I think they move on from him, whether they go young or whether they go a veteran route. Doesn't really matter. They're basically going to be 8th in the constructors standings no matter what they do in their current form, unless they get a huge influx of funds and they build this amazing car, for 2022. And would they be better off with a young guy versus having another veteran driver? To be determined.
Yep, to be determined indeed. Well, thank you for joining us, lads. Thanks to everybody who's commented. I need to head off. Yeah, like I said, we'll be back on Saturday. You lads enjoy the rest of your weekends.
All right.
Cheers,
Thanks so much.